Okay, I just want to talk about the three-phase system in a nutshell and what it's all about, and just maybe help deal with any kind of perceptions or misunderstandings of what it might be. But by no means is this some miracle formula that is just the magic pill, magic bullet, golden bullet for or gold standard for exercise. However, it's better than anything I've actually ever seen because it's very basic and it's progressive. It's just like if you took someone and they were learning karate from the white belt, yellow belt, all the way up to a black belt. It makes you go from most basic to most advanced, and it assumes no competence or ability of exercise from any individual, and it allows them to build. So they don't have to start from square one. They can start anywhere appropriate along the phased system, but what it is it's progressive from ground zero all the way to the most advanced. So take that for what it's worth. But by no means is this some godsend Mount Sinai, just holier than thou system. But what is important, and this is something very important to understand, is that it's all how you use it and apply the system. You could have the best workout training program in the world, but if you don't apply it appropriately, it's worthless. Likewise, if you have the most basic exercise program in the world, but you attack it with everything you got, you just give it your all, you can have better success than someone with the best exercise program in the world. So it's all application. If I had someone walking off the street and it was, Deion Sanders coming in to do phase one, day one, with the leg press and chest press, I could make him puke. I can make all you puke. I'd break you all down with that. But it's all how I apply the exercises and the workouts and everything. Likewise, if I have an old granny in there, I could take her through it with no problems, and she could walk away just fine, and she would learn some basic principles and concepts of exercise in a safe, effective manner. But it's not cute, it's not fancy, it's not any of this cutesy hybrid stuff you see in the magazines, but it's very effective, straightforward, push-pull, compound-based exercise. So this is strength training, this is resistance training for the most part, and it's not nothing fancy and flashy. You live by the flashy, gimmicky stuff, you die by the flashy, gimmicky stuff. But what is true in exercise is the fundamental foundational principles will always hold true. And that's what this stuff's built upon. Most basic to most advanced, and it goes from basic machines and demonstrates competency in pushing with, say, the knees or hips in a pushing fashion or a pulling fashion. So it's basically push-pull throughout the body. If someone can't do that appropriately, why the heck would I have them do some kind of imbalance training or standing on an unstable surface or having them do some kind of silly cable exercise or kettlebell exercise or anything with bands or chains even. You have these world-class, or not world-class powerlifters, but all these poser powerlifters that throw all these bands and chains around, but they don't even grind out a heavy squat appropriately. So why do they need to get gimmicky and flashy with things? So apply the basics is better than anyone, and you're going to get farther than people applying all these tricky, flashy, high-tech approaches. So master the basics first, then you can get to the fancy stuff later if and when it's appropriate, but 9 times out of 10 it's not. Look at Rocky IV. Rocky trains in this, this shed with, logs and basic stuff and chains and just simple archaic methods. And Drago's got the best sports science in the world and steroids and all this, and who wins? That's cliche, but you get the point. You don't need all this gimmicky stuff. If you do, that's a sign of your own incompetence and inability to keep someone progressing on a real sensible exercise physiology-based plan that is progressive and linear. Because that just means you're bored and you don't know how to apply the basics. If you're that bored and you can't stimulate success with the basics, then you've got a lot more to learn. But appropriately applying those fancy hybrid styles of training can be a very effective and advanced way to get the job done, but is by no means necessary, and frankly it's quite dangerous in most cases. There's lots of research that debunks any use of many of these devices, from even BOSU balls and exercise balls to the bands and the chains and the unilateral stuff. Some, don't get me wrong, some definitely have their place and are definitely valid, but it's less than 20% of the time are these even appropriate or necessary for even the most advanced athletes or the most basic situations. So outside of physical therapy, those things don't have a big place in our environment. We need to expend the most energy possible and use the most advanced tool or the most basic tools possible to burn as much calories in X amount of time and put the most muscle on in X amount of time. How do we do that? We do that with push-pull compound exercises or the big rocks and get the job done as effectively as possible quickly as possible. If we had 3 or 4 hours a day to train our clients, we would do all the fancy gimmicky nonsense out there, but frankly we don't have that time. And now I'm just going to take the time to explain the big rocks principle. So if I had a big empty glass jar, and I wanted to fill it up as densely as possible, and think of this in terms of exercise techniques and strategies to fill this jar per se. So first, the easiest way to fill up this jar is with big rocks that are going to take up the most space with as few rocks as possible. So first we'll put those rocks into the jar. Then we're going to put medium-sized rocks in there as densely as possible, and then when we're out of room, we're going to throw small little pebbles in there and pack that jar up as full as possible. Then we've got a little bit of air and space in there, so we're going to throw in sand in there and fill the jar up even more densely and pack it in tight. Then we can actually fit water in there until it is maximally packed, there's hardly any air left in there, and seal it up nice and tight. So we packed everything humanly possible into that jar. So what that jar could signify is the amount of time we have to exercise, could signify the capability of exercise that we have for the person, but it also can signify exercise types, from strength training to flexibility to core work. So the big rocks could be the strength training, the water could be the cardio training, the pebbles could be the flexibility and whatnot. But really, it's about how much work can we get done in X amount of time. So first and foremost, if we can't get to the water and pebbles at the end, well, you'd be damn sure we're going to get some big rocks put in this jar immediately, and that's the first thing we're going to focus on. Why? Because it's the most bang for the buck. If we just fill it with water from square one, it's not a very densely packed jar. Likewise, if it's just sand, it's not very densely packed. But we're going to put as much of the big rocks as we can in there first, then get everything else we can if and when necessary. So from exercise tools that we pick to how we utilize our time, that's how this has all been put forth and put to place. So it's the big rocks principle, and you'll hear about it in many ways throughout your life. I'm sure many of you have read about this before, but you can't defy or deny its utilization for what we're trying to do here. So that's why I'm not going to have some little rock exercise that's not going to really build any endearing quality in the person's performance or capability by having them stand on one leg on a Bosu ball and squat, touching their nose and barking like a dog. It just doesn't make any damn sense. So what I do want to see is have them with both feet on the ground and stabilize their entire body and move with as much weight as possible in a strong, aggressive, and effective manner. That's what burns calories, that's what builds results, that's what breeds success, which breeds more success, which gives us results. Because we don't have a lot of time to do this and prove ourselves and our system and give them results, because they're going to pick up the next shiny object as soon as possible. So we hit them with our big rocks, we give them success, and there's no more naysayers, and they see the proof's in the pudding. So just to review, the most important things need to be focused on first, and everything else can kind of fall into place.